There's a growing trend among young people to be anti-capitalist, which is a fancy way of saying socialist or communist, which is, I guess, it's that time of the century to start this thing all over again. We didn't learn anything from the USSR or communist Germany. This time we'll do it differently. But the one thing that I recognize among these young people on social media is that they're disenfranchised in America. Millennials, Gen Z, may be the first generation that lives a less wealthy lifestyle than their parents. They are less better off. And why is that? Is it because of capitalism? And I want to tell these people, we don't live in a capitalist country. And my best example of that is the fact that money is half of every transaction. And if money is half of every transaction, the price of it is controlled by a centralized authority, the Federal Reserve. So the government controls half of every transaction, or at least the price and the price of money. Therefore, we cannot be a free market. We aren't a free market. We aren't capitalists. The government injects money into the system, and the Cantillon effect happens, and there's wealth disparity. And millennials are seeing this, and they're attributing it to capitalism. Capitalism's the problem. And I want to reiterate, we do not live in a capitalist country. But this is gaining ground all over because people are working harder, have less to show for it. They saw what their parents did. And it does no good from like an older generation's perspective to yell at these people and say, hey, get a job, quit being lazy. And for sure, there are lazy people out there, right? But life is different now. You cannot work a job without a college degree like people used to be able to do and provide for a family. It is just not as ubiquitous as it used to be because the dollar's devalued, prices have gone up, especially on things we need, healthcare, food, and transportation. The prices on those have all gone up relative to income. So life has gotten more expensive. So these people have a point to some degree, but their diagnosis is wrong. And I want to take a look specifically. I saw an article on Bloomberg that featured this them. River Nice. Okay. They are an anti-capitalist financial planner. So let's listen to what River Nice has to say.
TikTok. I'm an anti-capitalist financial planner, and when I told y'all that a couple days ago, you blew me up and booked my calendar solid for the next 3 months. So thanks for that. And I'm trying to get people information about how to work with me and just my anti-capitalist financial planning philosophy. So I'm offering some free info sessions over the next couple days. You can register at the link in my bio. I'll talk about what I do, services I offer, options to work with me, and then take some questions from folks so that I can get info out to the community. So register for those before those get full too. And if you did book a one-on-one with me that's like a couple of months out, come to an info session instead rather than wasting a bunch of time waiting for my help. So hope to see you soon. Hey.
Okay, so I know what you're thinking. That sounds awfully capitalistic from River. Hope they're not charging money for their services. Because if they are, I would question why. Seems like a capitalist thing to do. Now, a lot of them will say, well, we have to work within the system, yada, yada. So how do you exchange a good or service? And who should set that price? Those are good discussions to have. I'm not saying that, but oftentimes they think that price and price discovery and competition is somehow inherently unfair because they make the assumption that everyone puts in the same amount of effort and has the same amount of grit and stick-to-itiveness. But if you have, in a simple scenario where you have two people, one realizes they need to eat and winter is coming, and they save up food for the winter, and the other person does not. So in other words, the person during the summer sacrificed. They ate less. They worked harder to save up for the winter. And this applies to today for retirement and other scenarios. What should the person who saved up and sacrificed do with the person that did not? I don't think you should be unmerciful to them, but I don't think you should keep them in the place they are, which is laziness. And a lot of people are lazy. And a lot of anti capitalists assume that everyone puts in the same amount of effort. Everyone has the same desire to succeed. Everyone has the same desire for a better life. They don't. It's just the fact. So, what do you do with the people with that desire? You crush it. That's what you do. You crush it and you take their stuff. Oh. All right, back to River.
I'm an anti-capitalist financial planner, and this question was, do I promote being a landlord? I wouldn't say I promote it. No, I don't love telling everyone to profit off other people's need for shelter. But as with everything, like there's a spectrum here. I can't just say all landlording is evil. Like some landlords are like a Black grandma renting out a spare room or half a duplex in order to like get through retirement, you know? And that's very different than some for-profit developer company buying up an entire city block to rent out to college students. So I wouldn't say I promote being a landlord, but I also wouldn't blanket say I'm never going to let any client become a landlord. You know, it's just like know your place and know whose land you're on and know what is important.
Yes, know whose land you're on. Who called dibs first? You got to figure that out. Now, landlording, I don't disagree with River here that some people are exploitative with capitalism. That's a fact. Why do they assume? Why do they assume that somehow socialism is less exploitative? Because capitalism, at its base level, is voluntary. So, if there is an exploitative landlord, and they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to upcharge you rent and yada yada yada." In a capitalist society, somebody could come along and provide competition, provide another apartment building at a cheaper price. You know who stops them from doing that? Typically, the government. You know who creates monopolies, who creates this exploitative system where there is no competition? The government. Because corporations, big corporations like Amazon, work with the government for things like, you guessed it, minimum wage. Who got shut down? Who got shut down in 2020? Right? It's the big box stores that succeeded. I'm not saying they're necessarily evil, but if they have an incentive and the government provides it, which is, hey, we will shut down your competition for you. We will make it harder to compete against you. They're going to do it. So often the exploitative nature of capitalism is because of government in the first place, which you, River, want more of. You want to take more stuff away from private citizens, give it to the government. Because if you're anti-capitalist, I mean, if you're an anarchist, that's one thing. And we could talk about that. But if you're socialist, that's government control, baby.
Where are my anti-capitalist financial influencers?
Hi, thanks for asking. I'm an anti-capitalist financial planner. It is a tricky spot to exist in. For me, it's instead of saying, here's how to have the highest number possible by the time you die, I say, what do you want out of life? And how do we use money and debt and property as tools to get as close to that ideal life as possible? And acknowledge that this is white supremacist patriarchal capitalism. So depending on where you fall within that spectrum of privilege and oppression, we can talk about how much to give in reparations or mutual aid versus how much to be built.
It's a bunch of commie gobbledygook. But I always tell like these anti-capitalist people, before money existed, when people were saving, they saved in things like food, firewood, things for the winter. That's kind of what money is, right? It is an exchange of a monetary unit for those goods today, because we have diffusion of labor. You can specialize in one thing. I just I assume most people like River here wouldn't be against that back in the day when people were like, okay, winter's coming. I better save for the future because I know the crops won't grow in the snow. And I better butcher some animals for the winter. Better save up some firewood. What's the difference between that and money today? I don't get it. Yes, people live in excess, but we all do compared to how people used to live. Indoor plumbing, yada yada yada. So you can nitpick every little thing, but I don't. My point is why is it River's job, maybe an individual's job, but why is it River's job or the government's job to say, here's the cap on the level of luxury you can have in your life, level of aspiration you can have in your life, right? The free market says your labor is worth this much, and the government says, no, it's not. And they tamp it down. How is that more virtuous? Never understood that.
Hey, I'm a queer financial planner, and I'm offering a free workshop tonight called Can I Afford to Buy a House Right Now? I'm partnering with a mortgage broker to help people figure out if buying a house is affordable and to get that mortgage broker's perspective on what's going on in the mortgage market. So that is today, Tuesday, January 17th, workshop. Hey, I'm a queer financial planner, and I am giving a...
Okay, that's enough of River. Now, I don't know why that's a resume booster, being a queer financial planner, but I guess it is. My point to listeners, this is a growing trend. I found River through a Business Insider article, right? Reporting on this cultural phenomenon of anti-capitalism. You probably Act Your Wage. You maybe have heard of that. You've heard of quiet quitting. This anti-capitalist movement is gaining ground, and the reason, again, they're misdiagnosing the problem. The problem is the government in the first place, as I've laid out. If you have questions on this, if you're a person who's if you're a millennial and you're like, hey, this system is distorted, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, ask them in the comments. But the cause of this wealth disparity, the cause of life getting more expensive, is central planning and government authority. Free market actors act in their own best interest. And in a free market economy, their own best interest, in order to gain wealth, is to provide more value than they take. And I think that's a good thing. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.